have a plan. You wouldn't have changed your precious plan, Harry. Don't lie. Told me.
A mathematician, a martyr, a murderer, and the most important player of all,
I am Harry Seldon of Streeling University. I see by your robes that the Foundation has entered the religious phase.
It's a pleasure to meet you, my loyal child.
The warden you incinerated, why did you kill him?
I had to. For God to be effective, you have to be intermittently rough.
You've been on Terminus this whole time watching us?
No. It wouldn't have been wise for me to have been sentient all this time. That kind of isolation can undo even the strongest minds. I'm not up to navigating it in 4 dimensions right now. I was on Terminus. Yes, no, you weren't. He was the other one.
You know nothing! You want to be in control? You know nothing! You're nothing but a peasant child! If you shared your great plan with people, maybe they could help you! You saw what happened to me on the Raven!
I intended one psychohistorian to be on Terminus.
I was conscious!
1,000 imperial mathematicians can't pass the numbers of one man!
I don't know.
A whole lot of people have dedicated their lives to pretending you know everything.
If the situation were reversed, what would Harry do now?
he'd fucking leave.
Apologies. I've grown detached from physical needs.
Well, the Creator and his creation have reached an impasse.
Harry? Smart boy.
The future is invented every second. Invent a better one.
There's an old saying, any man can be a success, but it takes a madman to be great.
What does it take to become a god? Is it faith in you as a being? Is it otherworldly power? Can a god truly be both all-powerful and all-good? Well, let me tell you a story about a regular human man who became one. That being Harry Seldon, one of the most pivotal characters in the Foundation series. Hello Mudbeards, fellow Foundation fans, and anyone who's wondering what Harry's obsession is with having 2 of everything. Today, I wanted to talk about the character of Harry Seldon, the boy genius from Helicon. Loved deeply and lost horrifically, established a following of well-adjusted individuals, and fought to save humanity's future the only mathematical way possible. Or so he tells us. Born to be consistently suffocated by his overbearing authority figures, like his father who fell to mental illness or the Empire itself.
We're safer going to Trantor, Harry.
I can't work there. It would suffocate me.
Harry is a character whose genius was extremely inspiring, and as I mentioned earlier, he developed a cult-like following who believed full-heartedly in his work. And these weren't just fanatics, these were people who were very intelligent and well-studied. Eventually, his work earned him the nickname of the Raven, which later became the name of one of his ships. However, no matter who you are, with this level of intelligence comes a certain sense of pride. And in Harry Seldon's case, this level of pride could potentially mirror that of even the Emperor's, had he been raised in Cleon's place. However, with all of his planning, his reluctance to let people in on them very much costed the course it was meant to follow, as well as the people he loved most in his life. The Streeling deal the Empire offered wasn't any guarantee of Imperial involvement, though it could have been likely. Still, a man of Harry's caliber could have countered this and found a way to work very close with the Empire and still enact on his plans, which inevitably he ended up doing. No, Harry took the easy route and avoided the caution and pleas from even the love of his life, and that ignorance seemingly cost him a family he would now never have. You'd think this would have taught Harry a valuable lesson, but he uses his rage as fuel to boost psychohistory and its threat to the Empire. Harry even anticipated Empire to be pushed to the point where they were either exiled or executed for their work. But yet again, he neglected the risks. Thanks to Gale, however, a new prodigy he took on to mentor, his plan somewhat worked out. Only Harry never saw himself being exiled with his followers. Which means everything he was doing, while for the betterment of mankind and preparing them for the coming Dark Ages, was mixed in with a mission he never physically planned to come back from. But even with these slight speed bumps, Harry made a new plan. Turns out, the reason he was never anticipating being exiled was because he was hoping to die. See, Harry was suffering the same mental illness his father did, and he knew he'd go from being a renowned, almost revered leader to someone everybody had to take care of, losing any sense of deification, which was obviously a part of his plan. Instead, he came up with one of the most, in my opinion, unnecessarily convoluted sci-fi plans out there, and prepared a way to lead two separate foundations. The first being Harry's followers that were exiled to Terminus, to be led by what's known as Vault Harry, and the second being set on a secret course to Helicon, with the hopes of establishing another foundation led by Raish to keep track of the first foundation, as the first foundation was always subject to inevitably need to be kept in check. Only because of his habitual manipulation of his people and his reluctance to let people in on his plan, it yet again veers off course. Now the version of his consciousness that was supposed to remain digital and be with Raish on Helicon is instead now in a physical new body with Gale on the planet Ignis and a whole bunch of Mentalics, beings with strange mental abilities, any one of them and their abilities being a threat to his plan. All while his other half leading the first foundation has now been clued into the second's existence.
The left hand, blissfully unaware of what the right hand is doing. Fuck! I'm the left hand.
Which was not part of his plan, and assuming he already anticipated the first foundation eventually becoming a problem, would only escalate this inevitable conflict. But let's talk about left-handed Harry and the Church of the Galactic Spirit. Choosing to lead through a vault and essentially as a deity, the Church of the Galactic Spirit was an anticipated outcome, as well as the fact that he anticipates it could evolve into something a little bit worse. The original intention of the Church was to provide a detailed blueprint on forming a new society, but giving up his life for martyrdom left others left prepared to try and take it. However, with examples like Warden Yeager, Harry is prepared for this outcome. Becoming this symbol of faith could easily turn sideways when it comes to the worlds they've established connections with on the Outer Reach, which again he anticipates. But if you want to hear more about the Church and Foundation's other religions, you can check out my Religions of Foundation video. And while the show does cover many different storylines with many different characters, it's pretty interesting to see two different versions of Harry, both interesting for separate reasons. One who truly does present himself as an omnipotent being, and one truly carrying himself as a struggling human individual. And I say human in quotations because on his way to Ignis, the version of Harry that did get a physical body was from Calais herself, or something that seemed to take the form of Calais. This same being could reside within the Prime Radiant and change its visual appearance. Harry seemingly has no idea who they are or how he got this body, but he's definitely not going to be carrying himself like a god in this form, especially when he's almost driven mentally insane in isolation and humbled several times by Tellum. But despite this, he does form a very strong bond with Gale, and at the end of Season 2, they're essentially all each other have in the entire universe. But again, this was never his initial plan. You forget that with all of Harry's genius, he's also a very good liar, even if by omission. Which makes you wonder, is his bonding with Gale actually genuine? Or is it mostly a matter of circumstance mixed with some real emotional attachment? As in, on Harry's side, the bond partially comes from the heart, but mostly because, being as smart as he is, he realizes establishing a strong connection with a leader on a planet of several people who could essentially read his mind is probably not a bad idea. But if some, if not most of these Mentalics could read his mind, then surely sticking around them isn't a good idea either way. Well, we see that even Tellum, the most powerful Mentalic we've seen so far, until presumably the Mule, even she struggled to pull his past memories out of him, never painting the full picture until he was near death. Even then, I presume it wasn't the entire picture. And it makes you wonder, for someone who was willing to go to some pretty heavy lengths for deification, again, not only sacrificing his own life, but having his own son do it, knowing full well his son would never be able to be with his new established love of his life, let alone made him responsible for so much of the plan, despite how much he obviously hated it. He also manipulated Gale into this journey in the first place. And sure, you could argue he potentially saved her from a dying world, but remember, Gale was meant to receive several invitations, and Harry had hoped that she would accept his. I truly do believe, seeing that Harry admitted himself that in the trial in episode 1 he did lie.
I don't understand. We're not revolutionaries. You said so yourself at the trial.
I'm not a revolutionary. I might have lied about that.
They could have also had something to do with the Starbridge attack. Now let's say he was lying and actually did all these horrific things for the sake of humanity's future. I'd say that's potentially what's happening. But Harry does also have a problem with pride. as we've seen in the flashbacks with how obviously stressed Dr. Taj is in Harry taking the Streeling deal, with even Yana telling him that it's obvious Dr. Taj will go to extreme lengths to keep herself safe. Harry still refused. I believe with Empire's resources and Harry's smarts, they could have actually accomplished a lot, but it's obvious there's certain iterations of Cleon that would never have worked with Harry in the first place. But that's not to say any further Cleons down the line didn't take what Harry was saying to heart. And had Harry had anything to say for the Empire other than the fact that they're useless and essentially going to be burnt out soon, maybe they could have consolidated a plan that would truly be the best outcome for all of humanity. But no, I believe there's a big chance due to Harry Seldon's pride that he always wanted the Empire to fall. And as for now, I can't really see what his end goal for the Vault would be outside of keeping it around eternally even through the coming Dark Years. Which means no matter how tight this tinfoil hat gets, I believe Harry Seldon always planned after the New Ages to be the god of the New World. But what do you guys think? Is Harry Seldon up to something? Where are the two different Harrys headed? And where does the future lie in the Church of the Galactic Spirit? Either way, thank you all for watching. Appreciate the support, appreciate the feedback, and remember, it's just math.